Hello and welcome to Endeavor's Information Mini-Series overviewing demand planning for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, showcasing out-of-the-box functions and field descriptions. For more on calculating regenerative planning, yes, over to you.
And then I'm going to run the planning engine to see what would it suggest to satisfy my sales forecast of 6 items when I have only 5 items on hand. Okay. So you would do that by going to Prepare and Calculate Regenerative Planning. This pop-up window on the screen allows me to zoom in on either MPS or MRP. If you recall, on my manufacturing setup page, I had the radio button turned on. That means that I could run both MPS and MRP at the same time. However, I could, for example, ignore my MRP. I just want to plan for my MPS. Yeah, I could do that. Okay. In my example, it doesn't really matter, so I'll just keep it on, and we'll also follow up on the assembly, on the components. So, for example, I just want to zoom in on my FH2 item. Yeah. So here you see the filter. I can zoom in on a specific item, or I can choose multiple items, or I can take it out completely and say, if it's blank, that means I'm asking the planning worksheet or the planning engine to plan for all the items in the system, all the demand in the system. For the sake of time, that usually takes a little bit of time for the system to calculate it, depending on the amount of sales orders that we have and the amount of the quantity of items that we're planning for. So just for the sake of time, I'm just going to zoom in on FH2, okay, and I'll put my starting date from the 1st of January 2023 all the way until the end of March 2023. Okay. I will ask the system to stop and show me any errors. Okay, so if there's an issue with the planning, I don't want to ignore it. I would like to be aware of it. Yeah. As you can see here, I'm planning for demand from a forecast. So it only makes sense for me to choose a forecast. If I leave this field blank, if I take this out, the system will not take a look at the forecast. Will only take a look at the demand from the sales order or production orders or assembly orders. Yeah. In our example, we know that we don't have any sales orders in the system. There's no demand for this item other than what's coming from the sales forecast, which makes sense for me to use it here. Exclude forecast before. If you're not using the starting date, or you're using a starting date of 1st of January, but you do not want the system to take a look at any demand from a demand forecast or a sales forecast, for example, from the 1st of February. However, you want the system to take a look at the demand that comes from sales orders in January. Then I will let the system know that I want you to move to the 1st of February for the forecast. So any demand in the forecast from January 1st to the 31st, don't look at it. Look at the demand forecast, the demand from the sales forecast from the 1st of February until the end of March. Yeah. If I'm okay with having the system look at both demand from the sales forecast or the sales orders or production orders all the way from January 1st to end of March, then I will not use this field. Okay. Respect planning parameters for exception warnings. You will see that the system sometimes creates exception warning messages. The system by default, any warning messages, the system does not by design look at any planning parameters on the item card. However, sometimes you do not just want to look at the exception message and accept it without having the system honor your planning parameters, specifically if you have planning parameters set up in place for buckets of time or buckets of quantities that would make it more cost efficient for you to finish the sale. Then I will want the system to respect the planning parameters, even though it's an exception, it's an exception warning. Okay, this field here, as I said, allows you to zoom in on a specific item or leave it blank. You can take a look at all the items or a group of items if you want. Here, I'm zooming in on the location Toronto because that's where my forecast is for, right? If you recall, when we looked at the sales forecast or the demand forecast, there was a code next to that 6 items. The location code was Toronto. So that means my sales forecast is specifically for 6 units out of my Toronto warehouse.
Thanks, Yaz. What a great overview on calculating regenerative planning. To get full access to the mini-series or to find out how Endeavor can optimize your inventory management for manufacturers, resellers, wholesalers, and distributors, visit endeavorsolutions.ca/demand. We'll see you then.